righty. Good morning and welcome to the VET S.O.S. Veteran Educational Resources Spotlight. I am your host, Dr. Hira. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. Lifeline. VET S.O.S. is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and is a proud member of the Parade Deck community. Today we are sitting down with Edward Lewis, who is a seasoned maritime leader with over 32 years of distinguished service in the U.S. Coast Guard, including 16 years as a Master Chief. A graduate of the U.S. Army Sergeant Major's Academy, Class 57, Edward holds a master's degree in human service counseling with a focus on military resilience, graduating with distinction from Liberty University. Currently, Edward serves on Green Advantage Inc.'s Education and Credentialing Board and is an active member of Arizona State University's Senior Enlisted Advisory Council. He also holds the position of chairman for Task Force Movement Maritime, furthering workforce development initiatives in the industry. In his current role as Vice President of Operations at Maritime Institute, he leads staff recruitment efforts, fosters strategic business partnerships, and drives cross-organizational alignment. The Maritime Institute is the country's largest mariner training provider with facilities in Norfolk, San Diego, Alameda, Everett, Honolulu, and Guam. So, Edward, we are so excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm apologizing for that long bio. That's a lot.
No. It's great to hear. We love having that shared with our listeners because, again, the careers and experiences y'all bring, it's wonderful to see what's out there.
Yeah.
So to begin with, let's start with your military transition. How did that go for you?
Yeah. So I'd say I have a different background, but everybody has a different background, right? Everybody comes in, their career works a little bit different. I was fortunate. I was in for a long time. I was a Master Chief for a long time, and I was a Rating Force Master Chief at headquarters. So I ran the largest enlisted engineering career field, support career field, second largest career field in the Coast Guard. And I took over that job in 2012, 2013. Sequestration happened, and nobody could travel. So now I'm in D.C. and I can't travel. And I made an incredible network when I was there and started volunteering with veteran programs because of my background, and we all have passions, and started getting involved with the National Merchant Mariner Employee Advisory Council, Committee on Maritime Transportation System, Ship Operation Cooperative Program, and started meeting some real industry leaders, people that were writing legislation to support veteran employment. And I made a great network, and that was over 10 years ago. So my personal transition was extremely smooth because the hardest part, when you transition is knowing where you're going to live, location.
Yep.
And then what you're going to do. Well, I didn't have to work too hard to figure out what I want to do because I had been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it was just somewhat of a natural transition out. And I had earned my degree along the way and worked on getting Army credentialing, Navy credentialing, Coast Guard credentialing programs established back in the early days of those programs, worked with getting SkillBridge established across the services. So with that network, the transition was not a problem. It was just a matter of time before I shifted from one uniform to another one. Yeah.
Well, and I think you highlighted a lot of the resources and pieces to use for the transition. It's different for everybody, but there are things out there to be connected to, including institutions like yours. So let's talk about the mission of your organization and school and start there.
Right. So Maritime Institute, predominantly, I would say 95% of what we do is train mariners. They're professional mariners. We do gov contracting, so we do train Navy, NOAA, Military Sealift Command. We do a lot of Military Sealift Command contract work for them. And part of it is because we train so many mariners, you have infrastructure, you have capabilities other people don't have. Relative to this conversation, what we can do is bring in Navy, Army. People don't know the Army's got a Mariner force, and it's actually extremely professional. Army's got a Mariner force, Coast Guard force. They call it qualified sea time. So service on a ship that relates to something in the maritime industry, predominantly deck force, deck officers, engineering officers. And we can take their current experience and find out what the gap is to their merchant mariner license requirements.
Wow.
And then we can gap train. So instead of starting over at the
Yeah.
bottom as an ordinary seaman, you can literally walk out lateral in with appropriate training in your prior sea service and walk into a very lucrative second career, not a job, and very lucrative career with a 220,000 roughly mariners in the United States. You can get an idea of the locations, all the inland rivers, the coast, sail internationally. So we do gap training for veterans coming in, so they don't have to start over. And I actually worked, Rich Berkowitz is the guy's name, with Transportation Institute over 10 years ago to get military sea service changed. It was 90 days within your last 3 years. We actually had the law changed, and that was pretty exciting thing to go from the idea to fruition. Military sea time is actually good for 7 years. Everyone else in the commercial industry, it's 3 years, and it's only military 7.
Wow.
And I made the pitch early because you have 4 year shore assignments. Well, you go from a ship to a 4 year shore assignment, your sea time is no good. Like that's not really fair, and everything that you're doing is sea related anyway.
Right.
So like you go from the engine room on shore, engine room, it's all the same stuff. So yeah, we do gap training. Get the idea, 10,000 students a year. Some of those GovCon, most of them professional mariners, large number of veterans in that mix. And one course I'll point out specific, we call it boot camp. I'm not a fan of the name. They named it before I got here.
Yeah.
Nobody's yelling at anyone, right? Nobody
Yep.
yells. But it's a 28-day program where you can get your entry-level international
Oh, wow.
credential requirements checked off. So it's not overly intense, but it's highly regulated by the Coast Guard. They are STCW courses. You come out with your merchant mariner credential, but somebody coming out of the military or a current veteran that's not actually in come through the program in 28 days and basically get their driver's license so they can sail internationally for any of the big companies anywhere in the world, and they can sail domestically. So they have complete flexibility after a 28-day class, which
That's a lot of opportunity right there.
it's a lot of opportunity. GI Bill pays, but depending on your status, there's actually other funding strings. So the best thing to do is not to self-pay. Contact the school, and we'll talk to you about options because there are a lot of options for funding for that course.
I love that. I was going to say, this sounds amazing. And then the next question is always, well, okay, if I'm interested, how do I apply? What is it going to cost? And so you already kind of got into that. And I think that's a key point there. So often I hear veterans say, oh, I'll just pay out of pocket. And it's like, no. Check with the schools, see what they can offer you. So what does the application process, if somebody is interested, look like? And then again, some of that opportunity for funding.
Yeah, so opportunity or the application process. I love our school. That's why I'm here. We are not the only people in the country that do this kind of training. So if you go to any of the big unions, American Maritime Officers, Masters, Mates, and Pilots, Seafarers International Unit, Seafarers Union of the Pacific, they all have programs specific to their union.
Nice.
So do your homework, right? Figure out what you want to do, what kind of job you have. We're private. We send people to the unions. We send them to the government. We send people all over. So we have, just one thing about being a private organization, you have maximum flexibility. So if we have a guy on staff named Tim, sits down with people. Sometimes he does it by teams, actually looks at their record and figures out like, hey, this is what you could strive for. With options, because it depends on what you want. These are the courses that you would probably need. Here's your sea time gaps, and he could help narrow down what it is you're looking for. Nate Gilman, there's a company called MMCs, and it's the letter MMSEASCs. They do the same thing. Jen Westcott's over there. You could call MMCs. They could help you out. Part of it is understanding like, what do you want to do? Do you want to sail Mississippi River? Do you want to sail Gulf Coast? Do you want to go to New England? Or do you want to go to Africa or Asia?
Yeah.
because that's going to help people narrow down the type of license. And then that's where the funding piece comes up. So if you're going to go work for AMO, those are all officers. The union funds people coming into AMO, and it's hard to get into their union.
Mm.
The the pay is worth the effort. They take really good care of their people. Um, in our case, we work very closely with Hampton Roads Veteran Employment
Hmm.
Center, Sultan Camp staff, right? So when you look at that, City of Portsmouth, City of Norfolk,
Yeah.
um, there's adult program. They call it youth. It's people 18 to 24 that are not in college. Youth program, veteran funds. Those are all different funding streams. They all have different requirements,
Yep.
and you almost have to be a wizard to sit down and say, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
What's your zip code?
Yeah.
Because zip code actually matters. And then we go through to figure out who is best to go and send someone to get their funding string. In my opinion, the last resort would be the GI Bill.
Hmm.
Um, I'm an education guy. You can use GI Bill for credential training, but if you use it for credential training, the number of months is calculated a little bit different, and you really got to be careful. And you need someone that knows what they're talking about to sit down with you to make sure you
Yeah.
don't lose more months than you realize, and you're getting your biggest bang. Not that I'm opposed to it, but
Right.
you need to sit down with a pro on that one and actually know what you're looking at. So yeah, there's different funding strings around the country. Some companies pay for employees to upgrade. And the last thing I'll say, and this is for the active duty folks,
Yep.
Coast Guard, and my fingerprints are all over this, $4,500 a year credentialing assistance fund while you're active duty.
Wow.
You can either permissive orders or take leave, go to the classes and use credentialing assistance funds to pay. And you can use tuition assistance for college at the same time, right? So there's different, and the Army, I think it's $2,500 right now. Army CA, we're in on the books for Army credentialing assistance, but the administration of that program's very difficult. We can do it, but it's hard.
Yeah.
But that's an option. So if you're
Yeah.
active duty, credentialing assistance funds may actually pay for the training. Army or Navy credentialing assistance pays for testing. So even if they don't pay for the classes, some of the courses are exam, and Navy
Yep.
will pay for the exams for the actual credentials, which could save you thousands and thousands of
Oh yeah.
dollars. Right? It's a lot. It builds up a lot.
Wow. And I love you shared some like the partnerships and ways in which you're all working together to make sure people are getting into the right programs, knowing their options. I think, again, a lot of times people think, oh, there's just one way to do this. And, there's always so much more research that can go into making a decision around training and credentialing. So I know everyone who's tuning in is going to really appreciate that awareness piece that you're bringing on those considerations and looking for alternative funding sources. In terms of what happens after for those who use your program, if somebody's curious and wanting to know, do your graduates or those who complete and get credentialed ever reach back out? Is there a network
So,
of kind of like alumni?
so the boot camp program, Ron McMiller runs that program, and there's a map on the wall in his office with stick pins because
Love
we
it.
track where people are at, and his graduates are literally all over the world.
Yeah.
And Ron, and his stuff gives you goosebumps. Ron was in San Diego and plucked a homeless veteran off of the street in San Diego, put him through the class, graduated, and I'm like, hey, Ron, I want to talk to that guy. He was sailing off coast Africa, I think it was. I couldn't call. He's sailing, he's working. And what I would tell you is pick your phone up when you're done with this and look up Military Sealift Command. It's one employer. It's a big employer. They support the Navy logistically, right? Military
Yeah.
SEALs Command, great organization. Ordinary seaman, you have your merchant mariner credential, no training, you're ordinary seaman. The last time I looked, it's $66,000 a year. If you're an AB, it's $98,000 a year. Able seaman, able seafarer. We think of an able seafarer, able seaman as what we call non-rate, right? Untrained person. able seaman in the merchant world is an actual job. It's a career. You can be an able seafarer for 20 years. They make good money. It's almost $100,000 a year for an unemployed vet to get plucked off the street and dropped into that opportunity. Now we have other people, Spirit of Norfolk, that are riding dinner boats in the harbor, and we send a lot of people to cruise ships. You go work on the cruise ship, get your sea time. They work on deep water boats. Tugboats are always hiring quality people. So if you're willing to do tugboat work, if you want to be a cook, if you're a storekeeper, finance background, the ships they call them stewards and pursers. You have those jobs on ship. And we're talking ship. Remember, maritime is also the port and the shipyard. So when you look at the maritime industrial base legislation going through, executive orders, that's really talking about the shipyards, but you also have the port with crane operators, finance people, administrators. Those ports are huge and great industries to get involved with. So when you start, hey, if you're a veteran, do your homework. What do you want to do? Where do you want to do it? And then let's talk. Find somebody in that local industry that can connect you to somebody like the Virginia Maritime Association. 450 companies in that one association. So if you have something you want to do, you can probably do it within that association's network. Far bigger than my network, but I'm connected to Shayla and the president over there, David White. So it's like, hey, Shayla, I've got somebody. What do you think? Can we point them in the right direction? Well, those kind of networks exist all over, and it's a great way to either take your career that you had into the civilian world without losing anything, or starting over, because some people want to go do something new, but you don't necessarily want to start over as if you've never done anything. You have experience. It's how do we capture that experience and move you forward in the best foot?
I love that. Such wonderful information, and time really does fly on these. But as we prepare to close, is there anything you'd like to kind of end with about either choosing Maritime Institute or just any piece of advice you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of people, especially coming out of military mariners, in their mind think, I never want to work on a boat again, because it's the experience they had in the military on a size and a platform they were on. That's like saying you never want to live in Philadelphia again, or you never want to live in Washington State again. Those are huge locations. The maritime industry is massive. And you have, I equate sea time to a college degree or your bank account. Why would you leave it on the table? If you come to us with your sea time, we can help you find a job that is aligned with what you want to do and very lucrative. It's a great path. If you don't want to work on a ship, that's fine, because there's a shoreside industry that supports that ship that you'll probably plug right straight into and find that esprit de corps that you had in the military. About 80% of our staff, and I recruit our staff, about 80% are veterans and retirees. One of the guys that I brought on last year, Mustafa, I asked him, you've been here for a couple of months, what do you think? And he goes, man, it's like being back in the chief's mess. I'm like, that's exactly what we want. Our staff feels like the chief's mess, and super welcoming. The school is welcoming, and we're really just here trying to get people a pathway back into the industry.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Edward, for joining us on VET S.O.S. today. On behalf of the VET S.O.S. family, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. You can find the VET S.O.S. podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, and social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe and follow VET S.O.S. so you don't miss a thing. And remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. lifeline.